people, what are you doing? Why are you listening to us? Well, we do things so that you don't have to. But anyway, I am joined with the man, the myth, the talent, Mr. Travis Croft. How are you, sir?
I'm fine and dandy. I think the question more accurately is, what are we doing with our lives that we've been? Because this may say episode 139 at the bottom, but that disregards the before times.
The before times, the time before, yes, the G&T era.
And it was probably a good, I don't know, 50 or 60 episodes of that, I'm guessing, maybe more.
I think it was 68. Yeah, so we're pushing the 200 mark, technically.
We'll be releasing that in the DVD extras or something somewhere, I'm sure, in the future.
Like, oh my God, look how bad we were back then. We haven't changed.
We haven't changed, no. It really hasn't moved the dial a whole lot.
And we haven't stopped.
You know what? People have come to expect a consistent level of quality from us.
Yeah.
Not a good level.
Yeah.
It's consistent.
That's it. Exactly. That is it exactly. And there is comfort in that.
I think so. You can watch us every week and go, they've been doing this for 10 years almost. I could do better. And we are happy to provide that level of satisfaction and confidence.
Exactly. We are there to give you a low benchmark so that when you sail past us, you think, yeah, I'm a winner.
So George has just been telling me that this week is, of course, the launch week for Elden Ring, I think, is the hot new video game, I think the kids call them these days.
A computer electronical entertainment system.
And I was just sort of noting that it's everywhere in my YouTube videos. Everyone seems very excited about it, yet I'd never heard of it for about 2 weeks. So on the one hand, I'm like, well, maybe I should be paying more attention. But also, it's kind of nice to see a video game come out or any kind of major entertainment property that come out that isn't based on some sort of pre-existing IP.
That's very true. Very true. Only last week we had the sequel to Horizon Zero Dawn on PlayStation, Forbidden West. It's getting very good reviews, but it's nice to have a new property. And yes, for those who don't know, Elden Ring is co-created from an idea by George R.R. Martin. I was talking to Travis about this just before the show. Obviously, the creator of the Game of Thrones series, also known as A Song of Ice and Fire. But it's produced and created by the people that did all the Dark Souls and Demon Souls and the games that relish in hating you. And so probably going to be very much along those lines as well. Definitely not my kind of game. I am a shit gamer.
I don't like, because I think we're both in agreement on this. I don't like a game that has to constantly remind me how bad I am at the game. Like, I already know that, you know. I don't think getting my ass handed to me for, endless times is fun, but,
Yeah. There was a game, probably, 3 or 4 years ago now, called Celeste. It was a 2D side-scrolling one. And it was very grueling, very hard. But at the same time, every time you died, it was an instant comeback. So you didn't feel like that, oh, fuck, another load screen kind of scenario. But at the same time, you felt like, yeah, okay, I get what I did wrong. Whereas other times it's like, okay, I just don't know the rhythm of this bad guy because I just spent the last 16 hours learning the rhythm of the last bad guy to beat him. And now my tactic is dodge, 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 dodge. Hope that I hit.
It's a acquired taste in the world of gaming. I have never acquired it, but I sort of saw the game. I was like, it probably won't run very well on my Xbone anyway. So whatever. And now it sounds like it's going to be super, super fucking hard. So
yeah,
maybe. But I'll be interested. Do you, in your capacity as someone who sells these products, ever get to try them out?
Occasionally, not often for Xbox. It's usually the PlayStation team that are a bit more kind of down with giving out free versions of the game to upper management members and things like that. But honestly, I don't even think I would go for it if I was given it, just because I just know that it's not my kind of game. And I would play it for 10, 15 minutes and just go, yep, I see what you're doing here. Good for those who like it. Bye-bye. And I'll talk about, I'm going to be talking about Sea of Thieves a little bit more later on in the show because I've been jumping back into that. But very much, there's only a few kinds of games where I like that grueling nature. I generally like the arcadey feel of games a lot more. That's just the kind of gamer I am.
Nintendo, in other words.
No, because Sea of Thieves is not Nintendo. Although
I know I played Sea of Thieves. It must be a lot of fun with other players because it's no fun by yourself.
Yeah. I posted on Facebook just video of me, my friends Eric and Patrick. We had just been. No, I'll save it for the second. I'll save it for the second.
Well, games are sort of part of what we do. The other part of a show is obviously film. And should we start with? We've kind of been starting with a chain movie of late. Would you like to start there today?
Yeah, absolutely. So chain movie, I was in charge of picking the chain movie following on from The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, the seminal masterpiece that it is. We followed Eli Wallach to a much smaller role in the Roman Polanski 2010 movie, The Ghostwriter, starring Ewan McGregor, Pierce Brosnan, and Olivia Williams. This is a ghostwriter is hired to complete the memoirs of the former British Prime Minister, who uncovers secrets that put his own life in jeopardy. That pretty much sums it up. It's got a fresh-faced cast in there of people that we now look at and kind of go, oh, yeah, Ewan McGregor. Pierce Brosnan was already pretty big because of Bond. Olivia Williams is a solid actress that has got a good quality reputation to her. There's a young John Bernthal who, strangely, is almost unrecognizable with hair.
He was, but he looks so young.
Yeah, he really did. I think this is out of uni.
This is just before he got his big break in The Walking Dead, I think.
Yeah, that's right. And then the other kind of two big names were Kim Cattrall. She's quite prominent in the show. And the other one that was, again, kind of unrecognizable just because of the type of role that it was. Jim Belushi.
He actually, in a scene in which he absolutely steals.
Yeah, he was really good in that. It's like, okay, where the hell's the rest of that talent been all your career?
Good question. And you don't see a lot of Jim anymore. He was a big star once upon a time. So, and I guess the elephant in the room here to talk about is the director, though. This is directed, of course, by Roman Polanski. Director of some note, I think it's worth pointing out, an Academy Award winner. I'm trying to remember. He definitely won for The Pianist. That is the only one he's won, I believe.
Yeah. He's nominated numerous times, like Chinatown, and I think Carnage got nominated a couple of years ago.
Rosemary's Baby, Chinatown, Tess, which I've never heard of.
Okay.
And The Pianist, in which he actually won for. So he's been nominated for 5 Oscars and won 1, which is actually kind of a low number for someone as acclaimed as Polanski. But, I mean, as I said, the elephant in the room here is Roman Polanski. This film is set in Maine, I think, New England, near Boston. It is absolutely, I mean, I don't think for a second it fooled me, but I mean, this is the second time I saw it. I saw it when it came out. I instantly knew that's not North America. I don't know what it is, but it's just like, no, that's not America.
Because they don't exactly explain it as America either. And I was very confused to start with because, he lands Ewan McGregor's character, whose name is
he doesn't have a name. He's just called the Ghost.
Oh yeah, so the Ghost arrives on the plane, and then he's in a car and he's going through things. And I remember thinking, wait, why are they driving on the wrong side of the road? And then I realized, oh wait, they've gone to other places in the world. All right.
I think at one point he talks about going to Boston or something. And they were in New York initially, and he talks about not touring down to New York and Washington D.C. So I think it's supposed to be the northeast of America, but just don't. You're like, that's not the United States. It just doesn't look like the United States. Like, even I've not been to that part of the country, so I couldn't speak personally from where it looked. It's just that looks like Europe. And yes, it was filmed in Germany. And this loops back around to Roman Polanski can't film in the United States. He couldn't turn up in 2004 to collect his Academy Award because he is a wanted man for essentially raping a 13-year-old, drugging and raping a 13-year-old girl when he was back in the 70s or something. I'm not exactly sure when it happened, to be honest, but and he, I believe, don't quote me on this, may have actually edited this film whilst under house arrest in what was almost certainly quite a luxurious palatial mansion somewhere in Switzerland, I think he was in at the time. But basically, he can't return to the United States. I think that's the extent of his allegations. So it could be wrong. There's always more. Here we go. So in October 17, a woman named Renate Langer interviewed Swiss police said Polanski raped her when she was 15 in 1972. That same month, Marianne Barnard accused Polanski of having assaulted her in 1975 when she was 10 years old. Yes. So 1977, the original case, Polanski was arrested for sexual assault of 13-year-old Samantha Gailey. And I'm naming her because she has actually come out publicly and spoken about it herself. That's why her name's on the public record. Interestingly, though, I believe she's could have come out and said, I'm over it, whatever.
Yeah.
But I think rather than actually facing justice in the United States, he fled the country to Europe. And why exactly Europe doesn't see that as a big deal is an interesting question. And that's probably a rabbit hole to go down after the show because I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah.
But I all that is to say, he's a highly controversial figure, and that's me being exceedingly polite. The guy probably can be safely described as a rapist piece of shit. So I guess the caveat to all that is how much I don't think you can forget about that when you watch this film. I think this is a high quality film, and this is what Polanski does exceedingly well and has done exceedingly well as a film director throughout his career. That sense of tension and paranoia that is all pervasive through this story. And he's always done that well, and he continues to do that well through this film. But I found it very difficult to forget all the way through the film. And just because I said it's supposed to be North America, and it quite obviously is not. I could find it difficult to forget that the film I was watching was directed by a rapist who never answered for his crimes. The fact that his most well-known victim has decided she didn't have a problem with him continuing to direct films and wants to move past it. I don't want to. Again, that's a conversation for another time, and I wouldn't question her. But at the same time, I can't forget what I know about this guy.
Yeah, I had the same issue. Like the quality of the performances, particularly from the main four, I guess you'd say, of Ewan McGregor, Pierce Brosnan, Olivia Williams, and Kim Cattrall to a lesser extent, are all really solid. They nail their characters, they give them depth, they give them each gravitas and vulnerability throughout their performances as well. So they are very well complex, created characters. And the story itself is still relevant. The idea of holding someone of such a high esteem and estate as the Prime Minister of the UK accountable for these things directly is very, 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 very important. So the message that kind of comes across with that is important, and I think it's aged better than when it first came out. I remember this kind of came out, and there were a lot of people who kind of went, "Oh, this is a little bit elbow in the ribs for Tony Blair," and things
like very that. Tony Blair,
100% is obviously inspired by that, but having that little bit of distance from it as well, it actually gives it a little bit of gravitas. And you said it yourself, Polanski is very good at building that tension and that feeling, and he brings that through a lot of silence and quiet, and that's what we've had for the last 12 years since the movie came out. Of no one apart from Trump, really, no one has really been called to be accountable. And even then, it was kind of like, well, that shit didn't really stick at this point, so fuck it. But the point is still very valid, I think. And yet, in spite of all of that great stuff, I didn't want to finish watching it because I didn't want to invest that time into Polanski.
I don't know that I invested a whole lot of time in him. I just know the story. I literally had to now look up the year the assault happened.
No, I just mean that I have spent my time consuming a Polanski product when I know what fucking shit he's done, and there are brands that I do not buy or will not go to because they fucked me in one way or another. It's like, okay, I feel like I'm stabbing myself in the back a little bit by doing this. I don't know.
What do you mean by doing this? Like by talking about the film or having seen it?
By actually watching it and kind of going back and rewatching a Polanski movie. Because
this feeds into that conversation we've had a number of times now. I think we had it the first time when that documentary about Michael Jackson came out a few years ago. I don't remember what it was called, but where it had basically those two young men who had some very credible allegations and very detailed allegations of abuse they'd suffered at Michael Jackson's hands. And we had that long conversation about separating art from the artist.
Yeah.
And I kind of feel like it's a continuing. It's got even worse, and it went worse. It's become more prominent since then as the Me Too movement sort of became more prominent with it. And you start to learn things like, we've talked about how it's hard to enjoy a Kevin Spacey film anymore without going, fuck that guy. Yeah. Or does that extend to, I guess, fortunately, we don't see Harvey Weinstein in the film that he made. So that makes it maybe a little easier to enjoy him because it's not in your face. But you see that Weinstein Pictures logo, the Weinstein Company logo at the start of a film, you're like, oh, yeah. Through to people like Marilyn Manson, stories about him have come out in the last 12 months or so, which has made me go through and delete a lot of his music off my playlist and stuff. And it just, I guess I've come to the conclusion that I'm a lot more sensitive to that kind of thing than I think a lot of people are. I have friends who I actually find it a little hypocritical personally. The friends that would have a lot to say about someone who's, what should happen to pedophiles in general community who aren't, global superstars, but we're quite happy to look the other way, or not look the other way necessarily, but they can still listen to Michael Jackson music without too much of a worry. And look, that's up to them, really. I just think it's a strange position to have. Personally, I might, but at the same time, I know, I actually read a couple of reviews of this, watched a review on YouTube of this, where they talked about that. Like they said, Beat It's still a great song, but Michael Jackson was a pedophile. Yeah. Some people can make that, can rule a line through those two things quite happily. I struggle with that, and I really struggle with this film. Despite the fact, as you sort of said, Ewan McGregor's amazing in this. This is one of his better roles in that period, which is probably a bit of a lay period for him. Kim Cattrall in a rare adult role. I didn't know she was British. I forgot she was British. So good to see her doing her original accent again.
It's a bit like when Christian Bale actually puts on a British accent. It's like, oh shit, yeah.
That's right, he's Welsh. And he's Pierce Brosnan was made for this role. He was so perfect in the role of Adam Lang. And Olivia Williams, and I think I actually kind of looked at it going, I know I've seen her in stuff. But you look through her actual, filmography, like, no, I don't think I've seen much of his stuff, if anything, but she was wonderful as Ruth Lang. Yeah. And so you got that for at the heart of it, like you said, they're acting their hearts out. You've got a director who, if we sort of say everything else we know about him, is, as I said, at the top of his game. The film, aside from the fact that it kind of, like I said, never for a second looks like North America, he actually looks pretty good otherwise. I really enjoyed the claustrophobia of this island that they're on, and just the fact that they've cast it as being on it, or sort of set it on an island, somehow makes it feel a little bit more claustrophobic, like they're stuck there, right? It's
there were just little points that kind of made it feel, it improved that sensation of dread for the ghostwriter. Like when he is in the garage and the guy's kind of saying, oh no, just take the car. It's like, no, I'm going to take the bike. And then it gets stuck in the mud almost straight away. It's like, that's a perfect little human moment that just makes you go, oh yeah, he's kind of fucked. He can't get away.
All of that aside, I just found this a very difficult watch as a result. Like, And it makes it a very difficult film for me to recommend to anyone. I mean, it took a little bit of digging up, frankly. It's not one that gets around a lot anymore.
It's on Stan.
Is it really? I don't have Stan anymore. That's why.
Yeah, it's on Stan. And much like you, I don't know how I feel about that. I mean, maybe all of the positives outweigh the negative, but I don't like the idea of judging his actions like that. That's just gross. And it's
a difficult one. It's a bit like Woody Allen these days. I kind of look at them in the same category, though I suspect Woody may be even more persona non grata than Roman Polanski. It's interesting. You see, he's managed to get a number of big stars to continue to star in his products. I mean, this is 2010. It's 12 years ago. We were well aware of what was going on. And like I said, in 2009, he was actually in jail for these crimes in Switzerland. So like the cast of his people didn't know that had all come up again. And he's continued to make films subsequently. Not films that get anywhere near the publicity of even something like Ghostwriter anymore. But he still makes films, and you can still attract talent to be in them. But I don't think Woody can do that anymore. There's that film that had Timothée Chalamet in it, I think, a couple of years ago, and I think they all came out and said, "Yeah, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have done that."
Yeah.
But I just feel like I don't know. If I was I remember Harrison Ford turned up in Europe to actually give him his Academy Award for The Pianist. And I just wonder how people square that circle. I mean, with Roman Polanski, maybe it's the Manson thing. Does he get a little bit of credit for that from people? I don't know. This is probably one of the first times I've had this experience where I've really had to. I mean, I don't even think I was aware in 2010, as I am now, of the extent of his offending. I think, there was this vague notion he was some sort of fugitive, and it was vaguely in the news from time to time, but I didn't really pay a lot of attention to it. Having learned a little bit more about what he did, I struggled to enjoy this, and I would struggle to recommend it, which is a shame, because as you said, it is a highly topical, highly effective, tense political drama. And you can take that for what it's worth. If you enjoy that kind of film, then you might want to check it out. But the big asterisk next to it is, like we've said all along here, it was directed by a criminal and a coward, and a man who never felt it necessary to truly answer for his crimes, or at least turn up and go to trial and have his day in court, that kind of thing. And if that kind of thing might bother you, just keep that in mind. But I guess if you've got Stan, it ain't going to cost you anything extra to start watching the first 20 minutes, and you might find a story, distracting enough to kind of, ignore it for the runtime and then take a shower afterwards.
Yeah, it's true, and it's genuinely like I have in the last few years, I've gone back and I've seen like Seven, and I've seen American Beauty, and I've listened to Michael Jackson music, but for some reason, I just felt it more in this film. And I
guess the thing with Michael Jackson is, I mean, if I'm not saying if he comes on the radio, I switch the radio off, I mean, actually, I probably would. I'm not a huge fan. But, I'm not saying you should run the other direction to get away from this kind of thing. I'm just saying we actually sought this film out.
Yeah.
And I blocked out a few hours on Monday morning to sit down and watch the thing. And I just kind of felt like maybe it was that commitment of time to it, as opposed to that's a Michael Jackson song on the radio, or you tell Spotify, just play some music, please, and the algorithm picks some Michael Jackson or something like that. That's a little bit different because I guess you're not actively engaging in it, or you're not actively seeking it out for the most part. It's a difficult to explain exactly, but for some reason, I'm sorry to derail the whole freaking review here today. Sorry, people, if you're looking for an in-depth
discussion. It's pertinent to the review of it because, we've watched stellar movies. Last week, we watched one of the greatest movies ever put to film. We have watched absolute filthy, horrible, terrible movies. We have run the gamut. And this one has been arguably the hardest just because of the director. And I just don't know why this is sprung out so much. So I think it is for anyone who actually listens to us kind of review these and take that into account when you consider watching a movie, I think that is pertinent.
I mean, and it comes down to, again, I sort of said earlier, you know what your tolerance is for this kind of thing.
Yeah.
You and I both know Shay, who you still share a house with, literally won't see a film with Tom Cruise in it because she thinks he's a bit weird. And it's actually surprising the amount of people I talk to who have no Tom Cruise policy or a minimum Tom Cruise policy. For such a big actor, like I'll tell a lot of people who are like, yeah, nah, mate, I'm good. Whereas I don't necessarily. I think Tom's fine. Tom has. I mean, for being a bit of a weird dude, and for some out there rumors, I'm not aware of anything particularly unsavory being said about Tom, other than he's a Scientologist, which is in itself unsavory. Don't sue us, please. But
suddenly our viewership has gone up to 10,000.
You know what? Is that what it takes to get an audience? This to church. But so it's funny to meet the amount of people. Oh, no, he's a weirdo. I won't watch Tom Cruise movies, but we'll still happily enjoy Michael Jackson's music. And you kind of go, one of these things is not like the other guys, but what in yourself what your tolerance is for these things. You can go, look, all right, maybe Michael Jackson was a child molester, but he still wrote some amazing music, and I, in my brain, can make that comfortable delineation between great art and a horrible artist.
Yeah.
You can hear from us, we struggle with that on this one. And I guess maybe I feel like I struggle with that more than a lot of people. At least my level of tolerance for their kind of bullshit is lower than a lot of other people. So you know in yourself what you can handle, and keep that in mind if you're picking to watch it. Other than, if we could ignore all of that, this is a highly effective film, very relevant, as you sort of said, and a great ending. I love the ending of this. What did you think of the ending?
I really liked it. I saw it coming. I mean, obviously I've seen it before, but at the same time, the movie still felt fresh to me when I watched it. But I couldn't really imagine a scenario where the twists and turns and the revelations that go through the movie, I won't reveal them now because I think if you do want to watch it, that roller coaster is very worthwhile. The powers involved and the level that the ghostwriter, the depths of water he finds himself trying to survive in, what happens at the end is inevitable. But it fit the story, it fit the narrative, it fit the telling of the story, and it fit the cautionary tale and that paranoia into it as well. I don't think that if it had been any other kind of ending, it would have felt cheap, and it would have cheapened the whole movie just by proxy. So I really liked it.
I thought it was a little convenient in the sense that I would have to spoil the ending to actually say why. I thought it was a little bit convenient. Other than to say that we can talk about it. It was fine. It suited the film. But at the same time, you're kind of like, how did that happen? When? Yeah.
It was very convenient timing, that's for sure.
I dug the story. I dug the acting. I just, it just felt icky afterwards.
Yeah.
And kind of the ickiness continued through the day. Watch a Disney film to wash it all off.
There's nothing past a certain date far back, and you'll be fine.
Fair call. Yeah. No. Yeah.
Like, oh, I'm dirtier now.
Nazi Superman are superiors. This sounds intriguing.
Just don't mention Song of the South.
All right.
So, any other thoughts you wanted to say on Ghost Rider, or Are you revealing where we're going next?
I was very disappointed. I think some people might have been disappointed if they weren't listening closely to last week's of a film you suggested. They may have been expecting us to sit here this week and talk about a guy riding a motorcycle with a flaming skull. I was halfway through the film and he hadn't even turned up yet. Like, I mean, what the fuck?
Yes, I did. I really needed to make sure that I was enunciating the T.
Ghost Rider.
Rider, yes.
Yes, because Ghost Rider, that would be a yes, I've seen that film before. No, thank you. I think we watched Ghost Rider 2 for on the old G&T podcast. That was worse. Now, other than that, other than the lack of flaming skulls, motorcycle riders, that is all.
Yeah. So, where are we off to next?
Well, I have two things to talk about. One, I will be picking our next film, and we are actually going to follow. I had so many choices here. It was a plethora of choices. I did consider following Kim Cattrall to Mannequin, considering you had the joy of watching Mannequin 2 a few months ago. I figured you might enjoy completing the set because you were probably curious.
I'm okay.
Note she was also in Baby Geniuses in 1999, which is a 2.7 at IMDb.
You hate me, sir. You clearly hate me.
The problem with both of those suggestions is I would have to watch it too. And Baby Geniuses, I watched for a trailer and I'm like, no, that'll do. That'll do, pig. That'll do. So I think this week what I've decided to do, I decided to be kind to us, but I'm going to try and go a little bit different, something I've not seen before. Okay. And we're going to follow the great Jim Belushi. And we're going way back to 1981, where we will be seeing Michael Mann's Thief.
Thief.
Oh,
Thief. Okay.
Thief. That's a Tarantino film.
Yeah.
Thief, an ace safecracker, wants to do one last big heist for the mob before going straight.
Yeah.
So this is directed by Michael Mann, the great Michael Mann, starring James Caan, Jim Belushi, Willie Nelson, and Dennis Farina. So I think there's a few options for you to find a way out of this film.
How did you not pick Canadian Bacon?
The idea crossed my mind. That is Michael Moore's only ever feature film. He directed that. I think we should be happy he decided to stick to documentaries.
Yeah, probably.
I did consider the Schwarzenegger film he did. Was it Red Heat? I can't remember.
Oh, God.
But this has a 7.4 on IMDb and a 78 Metascore. So it seemed like an interesting film.
Based on a novel by Frank Hoemer called The Home Invaders.
Can't say I know a lot about it. I'd never heard of it before, but it seems to have a good heritage. Michael Mann's always an interesting director you'd like to check out. This is very early in his career. But we will see, and we'll see if I've made a bad choice. Maybe I should have gone for Baby Geniuses. But we have had a request from a viewer.
Goodness me.
What happened? They do happen. We've had a request from a viewer who has requested to remain anonymous.
Mm-hmm.
I guess they just didn't want the deluges of fan mail that'll come their way after.
Oh my God, so-and-so listens to Armchair Producers?
So we have two films to watch next week because we've always said, if you want our thoughts on something, we take requests. So if we had The Beast a while ago, it was quite a while ago, we had a viewer write in, ask us to see The Beast. And, so you can do the same thing. You can find us on our Facebook page. You can find us on the Twitters. Or you can jump into the live stream, which is usually around about 7:30 p.m. Australian Eastern Time. And you can find us on Twitch or YouTube there, and you can actually come in and ask the question here if you listen to the podcast, or ask us to let us know what film you'd like to see. But we have our request from our anonymous viewer is to watch the Netflix exclusive Lost Daughter. The Lost Daughter.
The Lost Daughter. Okay.
It should be available. It's written and directed by Maggie Gyllenhaal.
Oh.
Starring Olivia Colman and Jesse
This has been getting some good reviews.
He's been nominated for 3 Oscars.
Yeah.
So, including 2 acting Oscars, for one for Jessie Buckley, one for Olivia Colman, and Best Adapted Screenplay for Maggie Gyllenhaal.
Wow.
So, Jessie Buckley, if you don't remember who she is, she was in that movie that came out really super weird, Charlie Kaufman film, what came out last year. I'm Thinking of Leaving.
Oh, yeah.
And of course, Olivia Colman, probably best known recently for her role in The Crown, among a multitude of other things. She was in The Father, with the film that Anthony Hopkins won the award for last year. The Favorite. Was she in Doctor Who or something?
She was, yes.
I don't know. It's been a long time. I feel like she was. Oh, she was in The Night Manager as well. That was a cool show. That was
good. Yeah.
Anyway, so we do take requests. This has been a request, so we will live up to. We are men of our word. We will find time this week to watch it, and we will be back next week to talk about The Lost Daughter.
We do also actually have another request, but we will do it. I will announce it, and we will watch it for the following week. From one Siren Divine, they did actually make a recommendation, and they gave very good reasoning why we should. And the movie, which Travis doesn't even know what this movie is.
If it's Baby Geniuses, I'm going to be very upset.
No, it's not Baby Geniuses. It is
Baby Geniuses 2.
Technically a kids movie, but the content, when put into context, that raises some interesting questions. So that is a little tease for next week's reveal.
Alrighty, well, but we keep them coming, people. Like I said, we are happy to take requests. And if you've got a backstory, even better.
Now then, let us move on to other things. What
should we talk about? The other film we've both seen in the last week, which is Nightmare Alley.
Yes, please.
Now, I believe you went to see this at the Nova in black and white, yes?
I did, yes.
I saw the standard release version in color, so I'll be interested. If you're it is available in the States on one of the streaming services. I think it is available here at the movies in Australia because, we don't have all the streaming services yet.
It's just about still available at the movies. It's very, very hard to find.
I believe they're actually doing a week or a small, short season of this at the Astor, the black and white version that you saw.
Oh, I highly recommend it for anyone. The cinematographer, whose name I am going to look up because he does a fucking amazing job. Where is it? Here we go. But the cast.
Dan Louston?
Yes, Dan Louston. He came out and said, the black and white version, it feels like a different movie. And I can believe that. Very much so.
And Dan Louston is a man of some pedigree.
Yeah.
Well, it looks like a regular of Del Toro's, having worked on The Shape of Water and Crimson Peak. And who could forget his work on 2003's The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen?
We watched that, ladies and gentlemen.
We won't hold him responsible for that.
No.
So for those who don't know what Nightmare Alley is, if you've not been in the know, an ambitious carny with a talent for manipulating people with a few well-chosen words hooks up with a female psychiatrist who is even more dangerous than he is. This is written and directed by Guillermo del Toro, based on the novel by William Lindsey Gresham. And it might be an explanation as to what I thought of this film, that this arrived in the mail today.
Okay, there we go. Now, William Lindsey Gresham, that name rings a bell.
This man, I think, is the ultimate noir writer. He killed himself in a rundown motel room in New York where he had registered under the name Asa Kimball of Baltimore. The only tribute paid to him in the New York Times came from the Bridge columnist. He was an alcoholic and abusive to his wife, Joy Davidman, as well as their children. Joy eventually fled to England with their children, where she conducted a long-term love affair with author C.S. Lewis, whom she eventually married. It's a hell of a story. The guy sounded like a complete wreck, but if you're going to write sort of noirish, sort of books like this, then I think that's the perfect place to that's a great backstory.
Yeah, because I don't actually know any of his other books, but I just feel like I knew that name. I don't know why.
It sounded familiar, didn't it? But when I jumped onto, we were watching it, and I jumped on Amazon, and this was like $12. So, which to maybe Americans, you're like, what the hell? That's not much, but yeah, that's not a lot. But like, that's cheap for a book in this country, even from Amazon. We get ripped off.
Ladies and gentlemen, this book is also still available on Amazon.
I think your book might be more expensive somehow, but like,
$12? No, I think it's the same price.
Okay. I was a little surprised. Like, we get ripped off for just about everything in this country. We pay the Australia tax because we're Australia. So, but I was very pleased, and I'm very curious to read it after having seen the film. So, the stars. This is star-studded cast. Bradley Cooper plays Stanton Carlyle. Cate Blanchett, the psychologist, Dr. Lilith Ritter. Toni Collette as Xena Vestia. Willem Dafoe, Rooney Mara, Richard Jenkins, Ron Perlman, Mary Steenburgen, David Strathairn. It's a brilliant cast. Tim Blake Nelson's in here as well. Yeah. You'll probably know his face. It's Holt McElhenney, who probably everybody knows best as the mechanic from Fight Club.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
he is
possibly Del Toro's most star-studded cast.
And it's interesting. He's another one of these guys who has people he works with. Burton has his crew. Fincher has his guys. Tarantino has his guys. Now Del Toro, he has his guys too.
Yeah, but this movie really rests on Bradley Cooper's shoulders, and Bradley Cooper has always been fine as an actor for me. He's like attractive, he's handsome, he knows how to be funny and charismatic and things like that. And he has done some serious roles like American Sniper, which got him a lot of attention. But I never bothered to watch that. It's not my kind of movie. I will get around to
check it out. It's a good film. It's not what you think it is.
Yeah. But this movie, my
God.
No, I will get around to it at some point. But this movie, my goodness, it is a roller coaster for him. And especially the end shot of this movie. Wow. He just fucking, he's painting to the edges of the screen with his emotions as he plays through them all. It is sublime performance, and that final shot and the way that we see him in that final shot, it is, I'm hesitant to say it because it has a lot of weight, but it is a perfect moment of performance.
And in what can only be described as a scandal, this has received no acting nominations.
Fuck me.
This has been nominated for Best Motion Picture of the Year, but somehow Del Toro has not been given a nod for Best Director. It's probably because I think there's 10 Best Picture nominees. So anyway, explain that to me. But Best Cinematography, Costume Design, and Production Design, all of which it'll probably have a real good shot at winning, I would have thought. Yeah, Don't think it'll win Best Motion Picture because they'll give it to some boring art house piece of shit about someone pointing at an orange or something. But
the Dog, I think, is the current.
I should get around to watching it, but you know how I feel about westerns.
Yeah,
and maybe it's very good. I don't. But it's kind of a scandal, like, because there's some insane performances in this film, as you sort of noted there. Bradley Cooper. We meet Bradley Cooper in a deserted farmhouse, hauling a body into a hole in the floor and then setting the place on fire. And just from that point, you're like, I'm very curious about this character. He ends up stumbling across a traveling circus, which he finds temporary work, which then becomes ongoing work, during which point he actually works with the traveling mentalists, I guess you call it, the psychics, played by Toni Collette and David Strathairn as Pete. And they teach him the ropes, the tricks, and he has a natural inclination or talent towards mentalism, and he helps them out in their act. He actually ends up falling in love with Molly, who is a performer, who is I don't know what you call her, and she does a trick with electricity.
Electrocutionist?
Electricity girl? I don't know. And they end up leaving the circus together, and he becomes, well, one might say a psychic, one might say a grifter.
Yeah. Let's just talk a little bit about the time in the circus, because we've got some fantastic performances there. David Strathairn as Pete was absolutely gorgeous. Such a wonderful broken man with the weight of fear and the power that he knows that he is playing with manipulating people, versus the torturous thing of him just always drinking, and his tenuous relationship with Toni Collette's Xena. They're a fantastic, just deep well of history of a relationship that we only tangentially get to see. But fuck, those two on the screen together, and particularly where David Strathairn kind of starts introducing his little book to Bradley Cooper's character. It's just, that's a performance worthy of nomination. It was just beautiful.
And to mention Australia's arguably greatest living actress, Toni Collette, as Xena. I felt she was a nicely understated, but and not a lot of screen time. She did a lot with that character. We saw a lot of different sides of her. Became quite a well-rounded person and character for someone who had half an hour on screen, maybe, if that. And none of those solo, like pretty much all of those shared with somebody else.
Yeah.
And of course, the other arguably greatest living Australian actress, Cate Blanchett, absolutely destroys in the the half hour or so that she has on screen as well. So I can't recall who got the Best Actress nominations this year, but I hope they must be very, very good if they passed over both of these performances for Best Supporting and Best Actress. I would have thought Cate Blanchett had a pretty good case for Best Actress, but I mean, maybe I wonder if they look at it and they go, she's already got two.
That never stopped them with Meryl Streep.
I guess so, but she just keeps owning on. She's like arguably this generation's Meryl Streep.
Yeah, kind of. So the nominees for Best Actress, you've got Jessica Chastain for The Eye of Tammy Faye, Kristen Stewart for Spencer, Olivia Colman for The Lost Daughter, Nicole Kidman for Being the Ricardos, and Penelope Cruz for Parallel Mothers.
I've seen Nicole Kidman's performance, and she was very good. So, of course, they're probably all very good. I'm a little surprised that Kristen Stewart got a nomination, considering she has the acting range of his mug. But, maybe that's what you needed to play Diana.
Not anymore. And anyway, someone who can who has that much range is like, okay, well, that fits for someone who was part of the royal family for a while, sure.
I was going to say, maybe having the range of a ceramic mug fit the role of Diana perfectly, considering that was kind of her personality. I'm going to get destroyed in the line for that one because, well, if I had any following, so, oh man, people like that woman. Anyway, but I thought that was super unlucky for either of those, and probably also Rooney Mara in a role of Molly. But she
very understated role for her. Very
Dafoe as Clem, the I guess the freak show, the owner of the geek holder, if you will.
Yes.
He has a freak show in the carnival where he displays what he calls a geek or a man / monster that devours raw chickens, and he is marvelously amoral.
Yeah.
Had one of the most important scenes of the film when he drops the geek. The geek is injured, and he drops it off at a charity hospital or something. Salvation Army or something. And has this amazing conversation. Well, one of the parts of foreshadowing in the film. With Bradley Cooper Stanton. But Willem Dafoe is just kicking goals at the moment. Like, he is absolutely just kicking ass and taking names. I talked about him a few weeks ago in The Card Counter. Of course, we saw him again just chewing the scenery as Green Goblin and just showing you that he still is the best Spider-Man villain we've had.
Yep.
Going back to The Lighthouse a couple of years ago, which okay, I didn't love it, but he was pretty good in it.
Yeah, he knows he's kind of like someone who actually knows where the lines are versus Nicolas Cage. They're kind of cut from the same cloth, as all of their characters are a little bit fucking weird. Whereas Nicolas Cage just kind of goes, I'm going to push this as far as I can fucking go. And sometimes it creates just gold. And other times it's just like fucking weird. Willem Dafoe kind of almost knows where the line is for that mainstream success. It's like, I'm pushing it right to here, and it's going to be weird, but you're going to appreciate the effort here as well.
You're right. He doesn't push it so far, but it becomes almost self-parody.
Yeah.
But that said, I definitely need to see a film with those two guys in it.
Oh my god, that would be amazing. That movie is so good.
So this is a very skillful film from a director at the height of his powers.
Yeah.
Look, I don't know. This is not going to gross do the kind of numbers that hasn't and won't do numbers that something like Hellboy did. But there's all sorts of stuff going on in this film and in this screenplay, which, with a bit of careful attention, I think will reward the careful viewing. It will reward repeated viewings. It will reward someone who can actually pay attention to what's going on beyond the central story of a central plot line.
Yeah.
It will reward viewers also have a little bit maybe more film knowledge or mythological, shall I use there's a word. If you have a bit of an understanding of mythology and biblical themes, then you're probably going to get a lot out of it. I should note, being a complete moron, I probably have fairly minimal understanding of biblical references. Other than, obviously in Jackass the other week, the use of Johnny Knoxville as a Christ figure, that was obvious. But stuff like, it was pointed out to me by Michelle, who was watching it with me, that Lilith is an important name in biblical history, if you will. The character of Lilith was the first wife of Adam, and supposedly the primordial she-demon. She was cited as having been banished from the Garden of Eden for not complying and disobeying Adam. And so Cate Blanchett's character in this film is named Lilith. Interestingly, Cate Blanchett will also be playing Lilith in the Borderlands movie that comes out at some point. I suggest you'll see significantly less nuance and biblical themes in Borderlands, just for a record.
Well, I think that's
I don't think
speaking on your part.
I don't know, but Lilith does have red hair in Borderlands, so she
never trust someone with red hair.
Well, I don't know if I'd say that, but someone named Lilith with red hair.
Sexy for their own good, damn it.
If somebody called Lilith with red hair, who is portraying a she-demon, you're probably worth a question. But considering her role in the story, I think that's definitely not by accident. I don't know whether that comes from the author. I don't know if that comes from Del Toro.
Yeah.
Other things like later in the film, a certain character escaping and hiding away in the train.
Mm-hmm.
Take that in a number of different ways. I'm not going to spoil it for people, and it probably won't make any sense if you haven't seen it. But stuff like that will be rewarded. There's also some of the way film shots of frame. There's a shot early in the film where Bradley Cooper is taking a bath, and there's a small circular mirror to the front and left of him. And then the later shot, he's also framed by a smaller round mirror at the front and left of him. But there's also a big, large mirror right behind it. He's reflected in both those mirrors. Now, I'm pretty stupid, so you can come up with your own conclusions about what that actually says in the context of a film if you see it. But Del Toro is doing a lot here, which you may not immediately notice. So I actually watched this twice on the weekend, and I can tell you it was better the second time around.
That was my first. As soon as it started rolling, I think I blinked maybe 4 times throughout the whole movie because it was just stunning. And I came out of it and I want to see it again now, and I want to see it in color because I want to see what I missed. And I am going to hunt this down. There are a few movies that I will buy on physical media anymore, but this is one of them because this is sublime. Even like we talked about when running through the cast, we talked about Mary Steenburgen. Her character, maybe 3 minutes of time, 5 minutes of time, and what she does with it and how that goes and how it informs the story. Fuck, so good.
The scene you're thinking, the scene we're both thinking of, including involving Mary Steenburgen's Mrs. Kimball, came out of a clear blue sky, and it was like, wow, and I think that's maybe also worth pointing out here is that some people might think of Del Toro and think violence, horror films, scary, blood guts, whatever. At the very least, unnerving images. If you think of something like Pan's Labyrinth, well, I don't know it's necessarily a violent film or a gory film, but there was some violence in it from what I recall.
Yeah, there's him bottling that guy in the face, and you just see it caved in and stuff. Yeah.
But also the monsters in the Labyrinth itself were quite unnerving. And of course, he did the same thing in Hellboy. The monster designs in that were very original and unnerving. So you might be expecting something resembling a horror film here. I don't think this is a horror film. I think this is a film about hubris. Yeah. And I guess you might call it a thriller, a drama, crime thriller.
Yeah, I guess. I
just don't think people need to be worried about massive amounts of violence in this film or blood and guts. There is some violence in the film, but it is restrained and used incredibly effectively to really highlight a point where he wants to make a point. There are some very high points of significant violence.
Yes.
Gory, but significant. Yeah. And I think that he used it judiciously in a way that really helps drive home a scene.
He uses it to emphasize a point rather than to just elicit a cheap reaction from the audience. What I find interesting is looking at Del Toro's development as a director and the source material that he does. Like, he started off doing a lot of monster movies and those lower budget things. He's worked with Ron Perlman for pretty much every movie that he's ever made, I think, at this point, except maybe Crimson Peak. But the nuance of who the monster really is and what the monster really is in his movies changes. And the first big one for that was Pan's Labyrinth, where, yeah, you've said the creature construction and the makeup and everything for the fawn, for the giant toad, and for the no eyes and things like that is fucking awesome and terrifying. But they weren't as terrifying as the humans in it. And that, again, in the shape of water, it's a fish person, but the people are the monstrous people in that. Similar kind of, it got a bit muddy in Crimson Peak, but again, the human element of that is the thing that is more terrifying than the ghost element. And now this, where flat out, there's no classic quintessential monster in this, but the people in it, many of them are monstrous.
I have a question for you. Did you see the end coming? Your superpower is spoiling films for yourself.
I didn't see it ending well for Stanton. I didn't see the reveal, I guess, is the best way of putting it without spoiling it. And looking back at it, I should have, because it's foreshadowed. But it's the right kind of foreshadowing. So like, oh, don't worry about that. That's fine. Just keep talking about the story's progressing. You saw something, but that's fine. Keep going. And I didn't feel like I lost anything. It wasn't until I was kind of driving home that I suddenly thought, fuck, how did I not see that? Wow, I saw it, but I didn't see it. And it was brilliant. Absolutely.
We have a turn up for the books here, people. Take note of this. Write it down. Take a photo.
You saw it coming?
I saw the ending coming. Probably not at the start. I saw it at the start of the film. Or initially during the point in time in the film where it does foreshadow it. serially, but shortly beforehand, probably 20 minutes before the end, I'm like, oh, okay, I think I see where this is going to end now. Yeah, I'm like, oh, that's a very unusual feeling. Where did that come from? But it didn't, for me, in this case, actually take away from the very powerful ending of the film. And you do kind of find yourself going, why did I notice that when they foreshadowed it? But you said it's almost the prestige, right? Of don't look over there, look over here.
That's it. Exactly. This is just Del Toro has refined his storytelling method and revised his revelation of character information to such incredible heights here. And part of me, it was quite interesting. I as I was driving home, I downloaded the soundtrack as well, which is really good. And it's Nathan Johnson, and I was listening to it, and the kind of the main theme for it, there's almost like it kind of elicits this sensation of like an old-timey music box, and that's very fitting for the way that the story opens and the way it plays out. It feels like Del Toro has gone in there and every single cog is perfectly in time with every other little bit to create this one perfect moment. And he pulls everything together to bring it together. And side note, as I was listening to it, I just suddenly thought, I really want Del Toro to just be given free reign on something, like if he was just given like a detective thriller story thing. And I thought, it's like a Del Toro version of Knives Out. And then I realized Nathan Johnson actually did the music for Knives Out.
Wow, there you go.
Okay. I see where that thought came from, but at the same time, I'd love that.
I think we've probably splooged over this film quite enough now. I'm going to say that if you have a chance, do see it. If you're in the States, as I said, I think it's on one of the streaming services there. You can actually watch it now. If you've got, maybe it's HBO Max, I don't know. But if you can catch it at a theater, I think it would probably be worth that as well.
Yeah, 100%. And if you can see it in the black and white, chef kiss. Stunning work. Stunning. Now, is it time for our sponsors?
It is.
Goodness me, look at that. I knew something, ladies and gentlemen. It happened.
It's a night of firsts here.
Sponsors 01, 03, 01. There we go. Okay. So who are our sponsors this week?
Our sponsor this week is Agro's Cartoon Connection from 1991.
For all your connection needs.
Well, this is a little before your time, so I doubt very much this is going to make a lot of sense. But those
they really do.
They really do. I had someone last week actually comment to me that they'd completely forgotten about Double Dare until we got to the physical challenge section, which is burnt into our memories as young Australians watching that. But Agro's Cartoon Connection, well, it was a bit of a staple.
Okay.
A sec here.
Get that queued up. God, the professionalism is just on point.
Wow, I really should be better at this. I do this at work all day.
All right. Songs off his album. Gee, they were good. I tell you, really. Get into those. Have you got the album?
No, I got the single. I don't think the album's out yet.
Is it? Yes,
I'll be out by now, yeah.
Yes.
Wasn't out 6 weeks ago.
Oh, wasn't it? Oh, well, I might borrow it off you when you get it, and we can tape that. So, and my friend bought...
You had a haircut.
No.
You have had a haircut, and you didn't ask me. Remember you got in trouble last time?
I don't need to ask you. I don't need to ask you. My mother goes, she reckons it looked like a preschooler's haircut.
Does now.
Oh, stop it. Actually, this looks funny on there. This is a really nice blue. It comes up different on the telly.
Yeah.
Oh, never mind. Guess what?
What?
My friend bought me, you know that, I should go and get it. It's downstairs. That song off the Nescafe ad. You know that French one? You sing it. You sang it the other week. Yeah, that's it. I can hear somebody singing it upstairs. You know?
Oh, it's on the new Sue Clacker album too. That's French. For Clacher.
No, Clacher. You will get into so much trouble for saying that.
Why?
I wouldn't say it if I was
She's a good friend of mine.
She is too. I know her, yeah. She's a lovely lady. All right, Agro, what's the first cartoon?
I went to her sports races out of school.
What do you mean?
She was in the 400 metres, and I was going, go be a clacker, go be a clacker, go be a clacker! And she won.
You're a moron.
You're the one talking to a piece of carpet, and you're calling me a moron?
I didn't mean to.
Oh, it started early. You're not going to get through 6 years?
I'm not going to get through 6. I'm sorry, Wayne. Let's have a look at... Have you seen this cartoon? Oh, have you seen this cartoon, this Gravedale High? Is it any good?
It's not bad.
I like...
It's okay.
Is it? It's okay. You know what I think is a good one?
What?
That Jetsons one, that's it.
Oh, please,
I'm not
let's go
going
to
to
the
make
cartoon.
it today.
Hey, the first host. Get him some of Wallach.
With thanks to Coca-Cola.
What do? You sound like a crow.
Do I?
Yeah.
Just call me Graham.
No. So, Agro, what...
Hey, we didn't say good day to Wally yet.
Okay. Good morning, Wally. Wally.
No. You turn around and you go, good morning, Wally.
Good morning, Wally.
Wally, bend over.
Wally.
Like that.
And when that first State of Origin game was played here at Lang Park in July 1980...
Okay, can we just not...
Nice music that we get.
What the hell was that?
That was the quality of children's TV in the early 90s in Australia.
I don't know what that was.
A little bit of explain of that was Agro. Agro was the puppet.
I guess.
The person next to it was Anne Marie, but I don't know. Agro was kind of a staple on Australian television for a very long time there. One of the more amusing things you can do is if you're very curious, and I don't imagine anybody is, but you can actually go onto YouTube and find some outtakes from that TV show because I think, if I'm mistaken, the guy who had his hand in the puppet got his start as a comedian doing comedy. It was very much not suitable for children's television and was not afraid of actually continuing on with that after the air on that show. So you could find some truly disturbing language for a children's TV show. And that was the person they were yelling Wally to was Wally Lewis, who was an Australian rugby league player of some renown in the 80s and 90s.
All right. Cool.
There you go. That's all. I shouldn't usually have to explain. She'll have to find something next week, which won't take explanation. Maybe some Blue Peter or something.
Ooh, I don't know if we can afford the rights for Blue Peter.
Maybe Sooty or something. Sooty when you were a kid?
I did, yeah, Sooty and Sweep. I had an original Sooty puppet.
That was the shit. There you go. Maybe I'll try and find some Sooty for us next week. We'll get into negotiations. Sooty's people will talk to our people.
Yeah, exactly.
Sooty's people don't talk. They'll just make random arm gestures, and we'll figure it out.
Yeah. Now, before we go any further down the rabbit hole, we need to talk about the finale of Peacemaker.
Yes, we can probably cover it quickly. I think so far to date we were fans of the series. I thought it was reasonably good.
Oh, okay.
It didn't blow me away. But I felt they stuck the landing well enough. That it paid off the show well enough. It wasn't the best thing I've ever seen. It wasn't the worst thing I've ever seen. It's attracted a bit of controversy. The controversy over the last week. The Snyder fanboys weren't happy with a number of aspects of the final episode. So if you haven't seen, I think you need to put the spoiler thing in there.
Yeah, spoilers is up, ladies and gentlemen.
You've had a week, but if you don't want to know what happened, you can tune out now. Where the Justice League show up, and we have actual Ezra Miller's Flash and Jason Momoa's Aquaman where we have Wonder Woman and Superman in silhouette only, and no sign of the robot guy, whatever his name was, Ray Fisher.
Or Batman.
Well, of course not Batman. So they're all people with Snyder people like, what's going on? Is this just erasing the Snyderverse? I'm like, guys, if you haven't already figured out that the Snyderverse has been erased, you're going to be in for a bad year.
Well, just wait until the end of the Flash movie, and then it'll be officially removed.
Which is apparently what's happening. But anyway, I thought it was funny. I think I also heard that people in the Snyder camp weren't really big fans of the Aquaman fucks fish joke, and that kind of upset them as well. But again, I thought it was funny.
Yeah.
I thought the final episode was actually a nice highlight. Probably the best part for me was the way they treated Robert Patrick and Ghost Dad. I don't know if I need that to be a huge part of season 2, but I liked the way it ended in season 1. Yeah,
I agree. I think that it hit every note that it needed to. I don't know what they could have done to make it fucking wow for me, because the consistency and the level of quality throughout the whole thing was so high, so strong throughout the whole thing. I legitimately, as a storyteller, I don't know what I would do to go, yeah, okay, and now this is the next step.
Because, that's a good point. I don't have notes for James Gunn. I did see some people complaining about some of the bantering parts of it, like there's the part where they're arguing about ants and whether ants are important, and but I'm like, have you watched the previous 6 episodes? It's completely in character with what these characters do.
Exactly. Take it out of context, then it seems weird for that kind of stuff to be in a finale, but it would feel weird to not have that in a finale given everything else that happened in the other episodes. So that's a weird comment for someone to make. I think that I'm curious as to what they're going to do for season 2 as well, because that has officially been greenlit now. It's going to be curious to see if they are going to still try and lean on the Justice League or the Suicide Squad elements of it, because I feel like Peacemaker and his little team have kind of evolved to a point where they don't necessarily need those points of reference anymore. And given the way that the story is and the way that James Gunn is, there are obviously going to be those references to Batmite and to Justice League and that sort of stuff. That's part of the fabric of it. But I wonder if it's going to be a little bit more kind of, all right, these guys are now our Task Force X, and this is their new story that's going to just feed on.
I mean, the temptation might be to rotate some of those other Suicide Squad characters. I mean, we don't know exactly what they're planning to do next with someone like Harley Quinn, who is far too popular of a character for them to just sideline. I mean, the biggest thing that came out of the Suicide Squad films was Margot Robbie. So I don't know what Margot's a busy lady, you know. Like, it'd be nice if they could find a spot for something for her to do. But we've also heard, we talked a few weeks ago about there potentially being a second spin-off of Suicide Squad, and given the success of Peacemaker, that would appear like more likely than not. But we don't know who it's going to be about. You know, my vibe is it'd be more likely about Ratcatcher than Harley Quinn, just given how Margot Robbie's schedule must be. But I think overall the show was a massive success for me. We talked about it at length before about how much fun it was, how heartwarming it was. It wasn't doing anything particularly new. Someone did point out to me this week that all James Gunn ever does is father-son stories, and I'm like, father-daughter in the case of Suicide Squad. I'm like, yeah, but Spielberg's been doing that for 40 years, and it worked for him. So I can't claim that it's doing anything new or original or particularly, anything you haven't seen anywhere before. But it's just doing, as you noted there, everything so consistently. And just sort of hitting, a good 8 or 9 and all those marks of, action, comedy, heart, acting, special effects. No, it doesn't look cheap.
Oh,
You know,
does
a lot of if I watch the CW superhero shows, they look super fucking cheap, and cheesy and childish. I don't understand how that universe ever got so big, but this doesn't. I mean, maybe this had, I would imagine, a significantly higher budget per episode, but it just did everything it needed to do exactly right. And when you have a storyteller of the quality of James Gunn,
yeah,
I can see why people now suspect, or at least suggest, he could be the new Zack Snyder at DC if he wanted to do it.
Yeah, I would imagine that he's had the offer, considering how well the fans are generally vibing with him, the financial success that he has with his movies now. He is doing something unusual in the industry and straddling both Marvel and DC. And it's going to be interesting to see what comes out of that after Guardians 4, 3, or whichever one they're on now. 3? Yeah, 3. Guardians 3. And they've got the Christmas movie apparently as well. And he's still got a few bits, but he's also made a DC movie. He's made season 1 of 2 so far for DC. He is overseeing a spin-off for another one. And he's probably had numerous other just them going to him. It's like, which character would you like to do now?
I would imagine he writes his own ticket from here.
Yeah.
And good luck to him. I'm a bit of a fanboy now, I must say. I'm a James Gunn fanboy. I've liked pretty much everything he's done.
Yeah, same.
Going back to Tromeo and Juliet.
I still personally, I think that his high for me was Sliver.
Super for me. I liked. I think he saw where superhero films were going.
Yeah.
15 years before everyone else did.
Yeah.
It's. I still recommend that film today, and most people who actually can be bothered watching it agree it's a great film.
100%. Take that, crime. Okay.
Shut up, crime.
Yeah. What are we going to talk about now?
I would like to talk quickly about the Tinder Swindler, if I could, because I've been meaning to give this a rundown for a little bit now.
Okay.
And pretty much everyone in the country has Netflix now, so you've probably seen it popping up as it was like one of the most viewed things on Netflix there for a while, and everyone was talking about it. And it really is grifter month here in the world of entertainment, because we just talked about the grifters in Nightmare Alley. There's another one, I think it's got what's the name in it from Veep? It's Inventing Anna. It's on Netflix at the moment, which I haven't got around to watching it. And then there's the Tinder Swindler. So this is a documentary, a Netflix documentary, but it's actually pretty good, which is a shame. Sorry, it's a change. Sorry for always Netflix documentaries. Because they're mostly us. But this one's pretty good. Posing as a wealthy jet-setting diamond mogul, he wooed women online, then conned them out of millions of dollars. Now, some victims plan for payback. I'm dead certain there's a daytime movie, a Hallmark movie of a week being made of this right now. And Joseph Gordon-Levitt is totally going to be in it. I'm just kidding. So this is a documentary about a group of women and their encounters with the Tinder Swindler himself, which is a gentleman who goes by many names. A gentleman's a stretch. Simon Leviev or Leviev. He has a number of different names he uses. And we are introduced to initially, I forget her name, Cecile, I think. These women are Scandinavian. So I struggle to remember their names a little bit because it was a few weeks ago, but we introduced to a series of women who are regular Tinder users who happened to swipe right on Simon and met him, were wooed by him, fell in love with him, and then were conned by him. So his basic modus operandi is to pose, as it sort of says, as a diamond, a diamond billionaire, millionaire kind of guy, an heir to a diamond empire, and his playbook is to meet women very quickly after matching with them on Tinder, show off his wealth. In one case, he flies a woman on a private jet to Bulgaria or somewhere, Romania it was, I think it was,
Okay.
in like the first few days of knowing her, to show off that he really is, someone of great means.
Mm.
At the same time, obviously, he's very good looking, quite charming, and sweeps these women off their feet. And actually, these women believe they are in a relationship with he is their boyfriend. Give it a few months, he starts to build up the impression that, and actually all the way through his actual relationship, he's foreshadowing that he has enemies and that he has to have bodyguards around him and such as a result of his enemies. And he'll start to build the idea that he's in danger and that his enemies are after him, and he needs to borrow some money with his credit cards being compromised or something of that nature.
Okay.
And that sort of rolls into and he sort of becomes bigger and bigger and bigger. He's so good at what he does that these women end up lending him sometimes up to $250,000. They're taking out loans in order to pay him money to pay for his fictitious, legal problems or whatever is going on. What in fact he's actually doing, it's almost a Ponzi scheme. He's taking money off this girlfriend in order to show off to the next girlfriend that he's wealthy and actually a millionaire, and take them on jets and stay at 5-star resorts and go to super expensive restaurants and, go to exclusive clubs. And so he's using her money to woo her, which he will use her money to woo the next one. He's paying.
What a weird choice of scheme.
It is, because how much he's actually building up. I mean, it seems like he's doing pretty well for himself at the end of the film, let me tell you. So I guess the great scandal in this film is that he was a wanted man at the time of filming, and he was eventually captured and did a very short amount of prison time in his native Israel, where he's actually from. A very short amount of time. So, and it took like a week after the documentary came out before Tinder actually said, we might kick you off the platform, mate, because there's a responsible organization, Tinder.
Wow.
Right? Those guys.
Wow.
You've used Tinder. I think you understand the quality of some of the people on there is to be questioned. Yeah, there are some good people, obviously, but some of them are very good people. I understand it, but they're not sending us their best. But I guess that's a central scandal. That the interesting plot twist comes where one girl realizes that he is a scammer, and she's his last link. She's the last link in the chain who can give him money. And without her to give him money, he's kind of cornered, because there was one of the standard, I forget which, one of the Scandinavian countries. They're all bloody the same. Finland, I think. They put out a newspaper report about this guy. So his face started getting out there. So his sort of opportunities to scam people started to dry up a little bit. And one of the women he'd been scamming was his last link in the chain. He didn't know that she knew that he was a scammer. So he was trying to scam her for money. And she kind of kept it playing out. And actually managed to, repossess is maybe the polite way to put it, a significant amount of his property, which she continues to sell in order to try and make back the money that she loaned him. So there was a nice little juicy hook there of payback for some of the women involved.
Okay.
But the sour taste, like I said, ends with he's still at large. He's living normally because he's not wanted anywhere, right? He's done his crime. His prison time in Israel. And that his victims are still paying off the debts that they took out to give to him.
That's gross. Gross.
It's gross. What's more gross, I guess, is the reaction to the film for a lot of people has been serious incel behavior. Like I saw somebody with a blue tick. I don't even know if it was a rapper or something on Facebook who was sort of saying, "Oh, the Tinder Swindler is about this guy who scams women to paying him money for, dates or whatever." Whereas, that's been happening to men for a long time. They just call it women. And I'm like, oh, champ, that's seriously nice guy incel behavior right there. That's some bullshit. And I think, though, what was interesting was there was a comment I don't even know how I found this guy's page. There was a comment thread of about 50 comments underneath it from men and women agreeing with him. Wow. So, yet again, this has actually been an opportunity to have a bit of a deep dive into some disgusting attitudes that men have towards women.
Yeah.
Whereas my disgusting attitudes are just towards people who got scammed. I don't care if you're a man or a woman, but if you get scammed, my reaction to this film was a little bit, how convincing is this guy? Like, I'm not saying these women are lying. I'm not saying that they were wrong and that they deserved it or anything of that nature. I was just surprised that people would take loans out to give someone money known a few months. Like, or as I said, one of the girls got on a plane to Romania in the first week of knowing the guy. I'm like, fuck it. I wouldn't, most women when I was dating wouldn't go to your house. Like, they probably wouldn't have dinner with you, but you want to have drinks or a coffee. It's the loaf. Like, let alone getting on a private jet with you to Eastern Europe.
A different world, man. It's a different world. Is the only explanation I can have for that. Because, I mean, the idea of going to a bank, like, different phraseology. I've got a mortgage, so yes, I've got a multi-$1,000 loan with the bank, but I have a house for that, and the amount of paperwork and process that I had to go through to get that, I just suddenly some girl that I meet online flies me around for a little bit, and then a couple of weeks later they're saying, "Oh, I need help." I was like, "Yeah, well, good luck, because bank's not going to give you that money."
I feel like he must have a very fine-tuned way of a sense of picking his victims, or he just picks a lot of victims and chews through people until he finds someone who can actually A, convince, and B, has the means to actually give him this kind of help. Because you're right, I would never have had the kind of capacity to do that. But it's, aside from the paperwork involved in getting all these loans and credit cards for him, it's just, what it did teach me was that I am a cynical asshole who doesn't trust anybody. Because, like, I think if you asked me for a loan for $100,000, because you had enemies in the diamond, I'd be like, what do you need that money? That seems like a lot of money, like, I'm not just going to give you all this money, like, I'd be very, very suspicious. I recall an occasion a few years ago, I was in Paris, one of my many trips to Paris. And I was sculling a beer next to the Eiffel Tower. As you do, I am Australian.
Yeah.
And I was with my ex-wife at the time, who when there was a guy walking some very cute dogs nearby, and he started to strike up a conversation with us, and his English was very good.
Yeah.
Like, surprisingly good. We're in a non-English speaking country. I never speak English everywhere in France. And, like, I was instantly, and my ex-wife was totally entranced with his dogs and talking to this guy who said he lived nearby. Oh, it's my place over there. I'm like, oh, yeah, the Eiffel Tower's in your bloody backyard, mate, is it?
Yeah.
And I was just like, hang on. Like, she's completely engrossed in this conversation with this guy and with dogs and how awesome it is to meet this friendly French local. I'm like, okay, where's the scam? The scam's coming, man. It's coming. Is there you're working with someone? Is there going to be a pickpocket here somewhere? Distract us. You take your wallet. Like, I was like head on a swivel.
Yeah.
Now, we didn't get scammed, and I actually think he might have just been a friendly Frenchman. But I think I can be forgiven for being. I think I can be forgiven for being confused about that. When have you ever met a friendly French person, especially in Paris? I mean,
there is a thing for that, though. The French apparently are very friendly with everyone who is not English
or Australian. Apparently, the only nice people I met in Paris weren't French. The cab driver at the airport was from Romania. He was lovely.
Of England, so why even giving you a moment's thought?
So it's just a story. So I'm a very suspicious person of everyone, really, to a degree. Like, especially if I haven't known you for years, it's kind of like, I just sort of, I was surprised.
Yeah,
the willingness of people to suspend their disbelief, to quiet down their worst nature of their brain and sense, no, this is my boyfriend. They've only known him a few months, and he's got this very sketchy story about diamonds, but, I'll loan him $250,000, no worries.
Yeah, I'm the same as you. I don't trust anyone. I've worked in retail for far too long. When someone comes in and they're carrying your shop's bag. And it's like, okay, here we go. That's the first thought that comes through is like, I'm going to be told a tale of woe and why this is all my fault and why they get to have their money back and blah, 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 blah. It's like, you realize that you spent more money than you should have and you want to bring it back, but you also wanted to use it for more than just the 1 week refund policy. So you're going to spin me some shit. Nah.
I think maybe it is. I worked in call center, which isn't exactly retail, but it's almost as bad.
Yeah.
And yeah, I've had that was for a financial institution. And people spin shit to me all day, making up lies in order to get me to do things. Maybe it's why I don't trust people. I don't know, but I'm really not trying to be a bastard about it and go, these women deserve it or anything like that. After what I just said about the assholes online who were saying, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying anybody you get scammed by Nigerian princes or
those are real.
The ATO called me and said they want me to pay $1,000 in iTunes cards. I mean, like, where is you and get critical? If you're 85 or something, that's probably, I get it, right? These are intelligent, educated, urbane, experienced women in the dating game. They sort of talked about having been using Tinder for years, and like bots and scammers are everywhere on Tinder. So it's an interesting documentary from that perspective to see how effective some of these scammers can be. And so maybe it's a public service announcement for a lot of people to go, hey, maybe you aren't as smart as you think you are. Maybe I'm not as smart as I think I am, and I could get taken by one of these people if they were clever enough. But, I guess my first reaction is someone said, I want to fly you on a private jet somewhere, I'd be like, me?
Yeah.
If you don't want to fly me anywhere. You don't want to give me taxi fare. It's just,
you don't know where I've been or what I've touched, sir. This is a wise choice for you.
It's an interesting watch. It's an entertaining little story. Will almost certainly turn into a film at some point. I'm sure of it. I hope this guy gets his shit caved in because he's a genuine piece of shit, a horrible human being. And I guess the lesson for all of us is be a little bit more suspicious of people you don't know very well, at least especially when they're ask you to take out massive loans for them.
Yeah. No. Just no. Don't. Nope.
This guy, to be clear, this guy covered his tracks pretty well. He had a pretty good Google imprint, right? Like you Googled him an imprint, you came up with shit. So he astroturfed pretty well. Hopefully that's not happening anymore. His name and his face is everywhere because he's on the mass. But I guess that's just the lesson for me: is be a bit more suspicious, ask questions.
Yeah,
don't trust people unless you really know them. And and that comes back to especially when they start asking for money for things. I just feel like that is an instant massive red flag. More red flags than Tiananmen Square for me on that one.
Yes, 100%. All right, now I would like to just talk a little bit about Sea of Thieves, if that's okay.
Yes. This is the pirate game.
Yes, this is the Rare, as in company, Rare, owned by Xbox and Microsoft. It is their online pirate experience extravaganza. They are strong, especially because of Xbox Game Pass. It's on there. You can just play it, and this is one of the games that it's designed to very much be as fun as you want to make it with friends. This is not a fun game to play on your own, but I've
noted that. This is a shit game. So that's why I downloaded it and played it for a while. I'm like, you were raving about it. I'm like, this is boring. It must be a lot of fun with other people.
Well, it's the overall demeanor of it is really toxic. But when you have a crew and you all know what you want to do, it kind of ends up being a little bit like what happens in a Dungeons and Dragons party, where you've got this quest to go on. You got to find this buried treasure. Okay, so we're gonna like go look at the map. Oh, someone's purposely getting drunk and throwing up on the map, so we can't see the map. Okay, very funny, haha. You know what? I'm gonna put you in the cannon and fire you off. Oh, what were we doing? Oh, that's right, we were gonna go and get treasure, I think. But there's some things over there. Let's go see what that is. It's all about distraction and just playing. But they have been consistently evolving the game. And the one persistent thing of the game has been that it's a shared world, and you can be going around doing all these quests and having your own fun. But every now and then you'll come across a ghost ship, or the Kraken, or a Megalodon that'll try and attack you, or you'll randomly come up against another pirate ship. And sometimes they will be friendly. Other times they will fuck you. And quite frequently, they will fuck you.
Are these pirate ships played by other human players? Or
by other players, yes. By other players live in the same server as you. Prime example of this fuckery. Myself, Patrick, and Eric, we had our crew. And we decided there was this island, and it had this kind of whirling windmill of fire coming out of it, and we thought, okay, let's go check that out. Turns out that it was a very, very big skeleton pirate that was vomiting fire and raising fire and exploding things, and it was a boss fight. It was a boss rush, and we went through and we killed it first time. And Patrick was there taking pot shots. I was going in with my sword. Eric pulled the ship up a little closer and was using the cannons to attack him from distance. He died. And then phase 2 happened. And almost instantly, he pulled down a meteor shower from above and completely crippled our ship. Both masts were over the side. There were holes. So Eric was running around trying to put out fires and repair the ship, whilst I was running around like an idiot going, attacking him. And Patrick was just going, don't touch my chicken that he had put in the fire to cook it so that he could get boosts for his health. During that, I ran away and ran over the hill of this little island, and I saw another player ship on the far side. And I was like, oh, guys, there's another player ship here. It's just a single one. I can't see them, but that's fine. We kept fighting, and I died tons and tons of times. I came back, and eventually we finally killed the boss. And it was amazing. Yeah, we did it. There was tons of loot everywhere. It was great. We started pulling it all off. One of the chests was called a chaos chest. Didn't realize that explodes. So that put a big hole in our ship. And then just as that happened, that other player ship came round the island and torpedoed our ship, killed us entirely, and stole all of our stuff. And so after that, we got pissed, and we thought, all right, we'll try and catch him before he has to drop his stuff off at the Reaper hut. But then we got distracted, and then we got back to the ship, and we got bored. So we decided, yeah, let's just set fire to our own ship. And we did. And we climbed up the mast, and we all just played our musical instruments as the ship sank. And that was fun because it was just tragic and stupid, and we got fucked entirely. But at the same time, we had fun. That's what the game is.
I guess that's purely multiplayer, in other words.
Yeah, you could... I mean, if you're really, really good, you could probably have fun with this. And they do make kind of allocations, like if you're in a sloop for one player or two players, and you happen to come across the Megalodon, your cannons do more damage. The Megalodon doesn't do quite as much damage on your ships. But at the same time, we've been in situations where the Megalodon was attacking us whilst also having a ghost ship there and another player ship, and it's just a mess. So as a single player, that could be really fucking annoying if you're trying to just loot and grab stuff and shit just happens, or this crew of 4 comes along and just wrecks you. That would be very pissed off, and I can understand that. But at the same time, because there's no real story, there is like an adventure element to it now. They've incorporated that. but the main game itself is just these loot drops and just buying cosmetics for your pirate, for your ship, for your cannons, buying a pet and things like that. No weapon is stronger than another. There's no leveling or anything like that. So you're not going to suddenly have someone level 99 poning you from the very beginning or anything like that. Everyone's the same. It's just a matter of how good are you at shooting someone and how sneaky can you be. And like Patrick decided to swim onto an opposing ship one night, and he took with him some exploding gunpowder, put it in the bottom of their ship, and blew it up. Killed all of them, sunk their ship, and he stuck around, so all of the treasure from their ship floated to the surface. I sailed the ship over, and we took all their stuff. It's great. It's shit. It's great. It's shit.
Well, I guess it's kind of reinforces what I've heard about the game in the sense like, and that's the problem with games like that for me is the fact that I don't have anyone to play those games with. So they become kind of, it's a bit like Back for Blood, like that game. The game really does require a multiplayer team, and unfortunately, playing with you guys when everybody's piss fighting around, there's a game that is not designed. It's not designed for piss fighting around.
I am not a good gamer. I love it.
No, and that's it. You have to be good at it. You have to be, and that's another game that actually expects you to be kind of good at it. Yeah. And it, we aren't, and hence, it's probably why we end up piss fighting around in that game because
I know that I'm going to die, so I'll start being stupid from the beginning.
Have you ever tried No Man's Sky?
No.
You guys might want to give that a go at some point. It's a little bit more, not quite as silly as Sea of Thieves, but it's similarly, it's a massively open world game. It can be, I imagine, would be a lot of fun if you had a crew of people. And there's a game that got a horrible reputation for the condition it launched in, which I think Sea of Thieves had a similar problem, but has continued to be worked on by the developer.
Absolutely. The next game that I'm looking forward to is Tiny Tina's Wonderland from Gearbox. Dungeons and Dragons meets Borderlands, basically, and I am all for that.
Yeah, the Tiny Tina expansion, everyone really enjoyed that. I think don't know if I ever actually played it because I played and finished that game. It was Borderlands 2, I think, that one. Mm-hmm. And finished it so quickly, and then I finished the first two DLCs, which point I was just kind of like over it, and like I kind of borderlanded out. And at which point they brought out Tiny Tina's extension, which apparently was the best one of all of them. So that's what I get.
You missed the opportunity, my friend.
It's still there if I ever want to give it a go, I suppose.
And there is now a whole game about it. So
yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for indulging me on my mad ramblings of Sea of Thieves.
It's a good advertisement if you have friends who are interested in playing it with you.
It's like I say, it's shit fun. It's entirely arcadey in its feel, and that is very much the kind of games. I was talking to someone today about one of the reasons why I'm not much of a fan of the games on PlayStation is because they take themselves very seriously, and they are serious games. And I love a serious single narrative story.
I'm always serious.
Shut up, Siri.
Seriously, Apple. Just trying to get their word in everywhere, for fuck's sake.
This episode brought to you by Siri. But I just love those pick up and play dumb fun ones that Nintendo is infamous for. They know how to make simple games but are just repetitive and fun and engaging, and that couch co-op kind of feel. I grew up on the N64, for God's sake, so multiplayer in the same room shouting at each other, playing GoldenEye, mines only. Whoever got the first kill, you'd suddenly get 6 because you'd laced every spawn point with mines. All of that dumb stuff that it doesn't actually take skill at all. It's just silly. It's fun running around as Oddjob and using the karate chop and killing everyone with one hit. That's what Sea of Thieves is. It's dumb fun.
Yeah, man. It is a category of game that is sorely lacking these days in some. It's a little bit like, I know you can do that kind of thing on GTA Online. But again, there's a game you absolutely do not want to go near. Well, I guess, period. You just don't want to go near it. But if you knew there were 4 or 5 other people who wanted to play it as well, there might be an argument for giving it a go.
Yeah. But even then, it's like because of the leveling in that game, it's like, yeah, newbies not welcome in that game. No. Unless you want to spend millions on credits.
Yeah, if you got a stolen credit card or something, which you absolutely shouldn't. Unless you happen to be named Simon and from Europe and on Tinder. I have one more thing to talk about for myself this evening. If you're done with
please, and
that is this is probably my recommendation of the week, actually, apart from Nightmare Alley. If you're on the TV front, I have started watching the new Apple TV series Severance.
Oh, okay.
So this is
not the Danny Dyer.
Sorry,
this is not the Danny Dyer thing, then.
No, Danny Dyer's not involved. I don't know what that is, but Apple TV are kicking some serious goals at the moment. Like they have got some quality material. Of course, Morning Awards or Morning Show, depending on where you're from. For all mankind.
This is the Ben Stiller thing.
It's the Ben Stiller thing. So this show is directed by Ben Stiller. It is not. It is not starring Ben. At least not in the first 2 episodes, which I've seen. Severance is a workplace sci-fi drama. Mark leads a team of office workers whose memories have been surgically divided between their work and personal lives. When a mysterious colleague appears outside of work, it begins a journey to discover the truth about their jobs. So it stars Adam Scott as Mark. Adam Scott, you're probably best known from The Office, I think he was in. And a few other things. He's a very familiar face. He was in a show which was criminally underrated called Party Down about 10 years ago. If you ever find Party Down somewhere, I recommend giving it a look. But I think his best thing was The Office, if I'm not mistaken. I'll be corrected if I never watched it. Other names you're probably going to know in here is John Turturro from all the Coen Brothers films that he did. He stars as Mark's co-worker Irving. Patricia Arquette as Harmony, who is Mark's boss and neighbor. We also have Christopher Walken popping up in here. Zach Cherry, you're probably going to recognize him. He plays Dylan. Zach Cherry, for me, the first place I recognized him from was, I'm pretty sure he was in Shang-Chi.
Yeah, he was the guy. So, like, I took some.
On the bus. Yo, it's the boy.
Yeah.
I'm going to try and commentate this fight for you, which I thought was actually one of the funnier points in the movie. So he plays Dylan, who is a co-worker of Mark. So the show begins with the introduction of Helly, played by Britt Lower, to the team, working with Mark and Zach and co. I don't know any of her work, but I've been impressed with the first 2 episodes.
Okay.
Essentially, as the show, as a synopsis sort of gives it there, this is set in a world or a universe where severance can actually take place. Severance being the surgical separation of your memories at work from your memories outside of work. So you have a version of you who only exists at work.
Wow.
And you have a version of you who only exists outside of work. And when you're at work, you can't remember anything about yourself outside of work and vice versa. So when you're outside of work, you can't remember what it is you did at work or who you work with or what you do, other than where you work. I work for this company. The company, and this is your stereotypical evil corporation called Lumen. So Mark will know that he works for Lumen and he works in their archives department, but he doesn't know what he does there. He doesn't know any of the people. So the fact that his boss at work, played by Patricia Arquette, is actually his next door neighbor. And he doesn't know that. And I mean, we don't know if Patricia knows that yet because, well, it's being a little bit mysterious about that. Okay. But it's kind of hilarious that his annoying next door neighbor is also his boss. And that's a really fascinating premise. So the show, episode 1, opens with Mark basically being promoted to become the team manager. And he works in a team of 4 because his best friend, Petey, just disappears one day. He doesn't come into work. And they're told he doesn't work there anymore, and they don't know why. And he can't ask Petey because he doesn't know Petey outside of work. Literally doesn't know he exists. So we have a new team member played by Britt Laura as Helly, and Mark, being the new manager, has to train her, which involves her waking up on their floor. And I should note that the severed memories, so their work memories, are only kick in on that floor. So this particular basement floor of the building. So once they enter, they have a lift that goes down. They enter the lift as what they call their outie, their outside personality.
Yeah.
And by the time they get to the bottom of the lift shaft, they become their innie, their inside work personality. So she is on the basement floor, where what they call their severed floor, and Mark has to try and talk her around and actually convince her that she's chosen to do this and make her understand where she is and what the purpose of where she is. That's a lot of is. Because Helly doesn't know who she is. She doesn't know where she is. She doesn't know what's going on. They have to show her a video that her outie made before taking the job, that she was comfortable to have her memory severed and start working there.
Okay.
One of the more interesting segments, or the most effective segment of the first episode, is Helly. The training manual says if they ask to leave 3 times, you take them to the stairwell and point them towards it and say you can leave. And Helly walks out of that stairwell down the hallway into the stairwell, and then she walks straight back in. But she doesn't actually remember what happens when she's out in the stairwell. Her innie personality, her work personality, then just remembers exiting the door, and the next thing she remembers is walking right back in. In episode 2, we actually see the alternate side of that coin. We see what actually happens in that stairwell.
Okay.
When she exits, and there's somebody from the company there going, "Yeah, it's fine. Just go back in. You'll be all right." And it's a wonderful concept. I mean, it's a brilliant concept, because it's just evil enough.
Yeah.
You kind of go, somebody somewhere at Google probably or Facebook is going, "That's a good idea.
Let's make this happen."
Did that work? I mean, it's a bit like when Charlie Brooker comes up with shit and for Black Mirror these days. There's someone somewhere taking notes and going, "Can we do that? Can we get away with that?" So it's the best kind of science fiction for me. It's where it's plausible enough to potentially actually happen in reality. Obviously, I don't know if such a thing's possible, but you can see somebody trying that.
Yeah. So Ben Stiller as the director, how's he doing?
First 2 episodes are brilliant.
Okay.
It has a palpable sense of dread as well, but just enough, not a massive sense of dread, right? That kind of paranoia and dread, like in something like The Social Network.
Okay.
You kind of caught that sense of unease and anxiety that kind of permeates that film, for me at least, because these are bright, well lit, clean, open spaces that they work in, but there's something is a sense of something evil or dark or menacing going on in this company. So their jobs are to clean data is what they're doing. They're cleaning data.
Okay. That just sounds suspicious straight away.
Well, if you've ever worked with data, that's actually a thing you would do. You do actually, when you actually have a set of data, you do want to clean it before using it. But the way they're doing it is quite unusual. It's like the data is encrypted on their computers, so they have to find groups of numbers on their screen that make them feel an emotional reaction. Which is quite bizarre.
Okay.
And it's really cool, but we don't know what this company does. We don't know what they're doing with this data. They don't know what this data is. They don't know. We don't know.
Okay.
So what we know is there's something strange going on at this place. It's really weird, and it feels evil. You just see this being like one of those vaults you find in Fallout, where Vault-Tec's doing something really fucked up. And that's how you kind of feel about it. There's something very, very unnerving going on in this organization. Okay. So but at the same time, it's not jump scares or anything like that. It's understated. At the same time, it's quietly amusing in points, like the relationships between the workers, especially ones who've worked together for a long time, are interesting and they feel kind of real, but still kind of fucking weird as well because they don't actually know each other outside of his workplace. It's also horrifying in part. In episode 1, Helly realizes, I will never leave this workplace. As far as in her head, she never leaves work.
Yeah.
Because her work personality never experiences the outside world. In episode 2, Mark and Helly have a conversation about how they don't know what sleep feels like because they don't experience it.
Oh.
So it's kind of horrifying, you know, the idea of, and I think you've worked in enough shit jobs over your lifetime, as I know I have, where you can kind of go, I kind of feel like I know what that feels like. That feeling of being trapped at work.
I was just here, wasn't I?
It certainly can feel that way, right?
Yeah.
So
Okay.
it's, if you're thinking it's a laugh out loud comedy or anything like that, just because Ben Stiller's involved, think again, that's not what this is. It's, as I said, it's a sort of a fairly dark sort of sci-fi drama. Ben, I think, has done a great job. It's amazing that to see him pop up here. Not his usual kind of thing. I mean, he's been directing more than acting in recent years. Interestingly, he's created by a guy named Dan Erickson. This is his first credit as writer.
Okay. Cool.
So props to him.
Yeah.
He started with something very special, I think. So far, look at 2 episodes in.
Cool.
I can't say that it's going to be, the most amazing show ever after 2 episodes. We've all seen 2 episodes come along and go, actually, how about I just, take a shit on the second half of a season, I'm looking at, or a second, or just completely not know how it's going to end. I'm looking at You, Lost, or Lovecraft Country, good episode to start with, and then just the rest of it was crap.
I enjoyed Lovecraft Country.
Anyway, so episode 1 has 9 episodes. If everyone's allowed a different opinion, 9 episodes. So in season 1, it looks like it's got a season 2 greenlit already, which is pretty cool. It's not unusual these days.
Yeah,
but the first 2 episodes are incredibly strong. So this has 8.2 on IMDb, which is not a lot of votes, I guess, on here, but it's pretty good. It's a pretty good reflection for me that this is high quality stuff. And I'm in. I am so in. This is exactly my jam.
Okay. I'm gonna give it a go.
I think this is your opinion because it is a little bit outside your sweet spot, but at the same time, I feel like you might connect with the characters in the story, and just having worked for people who are horrible.
This is too real. Stop it.
It's like a sci-fi Office Space. If they don't slip in a TPS report somewhere, I'm going to be very disappointed.
Just the boss is actually just a red stapler.
That would be hilarious. Or if I get a Gary Cole cameo would be amazing.
Yes, that's what we need. We need more Gary Cole. Come on.
Think of that though, with the kind of characters, the kind of menace I'm talking about here. Well, he was played for laughs in Office Space. You just that kind of cheerful malevolence that someone like that can bring.
Yep.
I'm not actually threatening you, but I am.
Mm-hmm. I've heard someone say that line to me. All right. I'm definitely going to check that out. Was there anything else that you wanted to talk about, or should we stop at the nice 2-hour mark?
And the 2-hour mark, so I might call it there.
All right, cool. Well, that is this week's show, ladies and gentlemen. We talked about our chain movie of the week, The Ghostwriter, which was challenging for reasons not traditionally associated with why a movie would be challenging. Travis has chosen Thief as the follow-on for that, as well as our recommendation from the audience, The Lost Daughter on Netflix. We splooged all over Nightmare Alley, had a wonderful time with that. Thank you, Guillermo. We talked about The Tinder Swindler, Sea of Thieves, Peacemaker finale a little bit, and finished up just then with Severance on Apple TV. Next week, obviously, we're going to be talking about Thief. I'm going to just do a final wrap up of my thoughts on Legend of Vox Machina Season 1. And I'm going to try and get to the cinema to watch a couple of other things, because we are 2 weeks away from the magnum opus, the 3-hour spectacular of The Batman. So that is coming in hot. It is early advanced screenings on the Wednesday, but we will probably not be going to that one, so it'll be the following week after that we talk about.
Not unless someone wants to give us free tickets, in which case
that'd be nice.
We'll consider it.
Yes, that'd be nice. We would postpone the show to watch the movie for you, so you have better understanding.
We're nice guys like that.
Yeah, that's something we would be willing to do. On that rambling note, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us this week. Don't forget to like us, share, subscribe on Facebook, on Twitter, on Twitch, on YouTube. It does help a lot. And if you have a recommendation for the show, pop it in any of the chats there on any of our videos. We do see them, and we do, as we will do next week, we will talk about them. Thank you very much. Good night.
Good night.